Every time I meet with clients, I get bombarded with messages. Sometimes an appointment gets changed. Worst of all, opportunities get away because I couldn't follow up fast enough. Being busy was good, but I was up to my eyebrows in busy work when I should have been growing my business. So today, I got Keap Grow. Keap's top-rated friendly team saved me a ton of time by helping me get all of my client info from a spreadsheet into the app, connected my email accounts, and consolidated my client communication for free. With all of my client info and data organized and accessible in all of my devices, I never miss a beat. Plus, I got a free dedicated business phone line for my iPhone. I share my business number with leads and customers directly, and I know if an incoming call is business or personal. Now, when I log in at the start of my day, Keap prompts me to take the next step with my leads and my clients by sending personalized email replies, sending quotes, even scheduling meetings. With Keap appointments, sending a link is all it takes. My client picks a time and a confirmation is sent automatically. No more missed meetings. With Keap Grow, converting my quotes to invoices is done in a click. And the client's payments, too. Keap Grow has everything I need to get organized, grow my business, and the reviews speak for themselves. Keap Grow. Simplify your growth.
Hey everyone, it's Paige Clark here at Keap, and I'm with my friend Dave.
Hi, Paige.
How's it going, Dave?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really good, and we're really excited to be here today.
Of course, absolutely thrilled to be here. My name is Dave Vest. Just to finish the introduction there, I'm a writer and editor here for the marketing department here at Keap in beautiful Chandler, Arizona. My job involves writing and editing all of the blogs that our customers and prospects view on keap.com and all of the guides as well.
Yeah.
And we're here today to
talk
speak
about one of those
specifically about one of my favorite all-time guides.
The
Of
Small
course.
Business Trends Report.
Yes, the
It's pretty amazing.
2020 Small Business Marketing Trends Report.
And you said 2020.
I
I've been
did.
catching myself and saying 2019 quite often now.
Right.
It's 2020 Small Business Trends Report.
Yes.
So what is it? Just brief one sentence. What is the Small Business
Wow,
Trends Report?
one sentence. Talk about pressure. The report is essentially a resource that the Keap marketing department generates on an annual basis.
Right.
It's for small business owners, and it is just a hub, if you will, of information about how small businesses market and how they should try to market if they're not doing so. It features several elements, including an original survey that we conducted with small business owners, and it also includes an element of insight and advice from various experts who were gracious enough to participate. Some of them will
here
be
today.
joining us today.
That's so exciting.
It's a really interesting piece of information page. I'm assuming you read it.
Yes.
It's 5,000 words.
I love my long form content. Absolutely.
5,000 words. There's 10 original infographics that present survey results in a dramatic drumroll fashion. There's also 4 original videos with Keap CEO Clayton Mask. So I invite everyone to check it out.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, please do so at
It's
keap.com.
Yep, it's linked here in the caption, and it'll also be in the comments if you want to check it out. And while we're having this conversation, if you have any questions, we can answer them live on air. So go ahead, submit those questions in the comments, and we'll get to those as well.
Okay, very good. So as I mentioned, we're fortunate enough to be joined today by a few of the participants in the Marketing Trends Report. Thank you very much for joining us. First off, we have premier Facebook marketing expert, Mari Smith, who is commonly known as the Queen of Facebook. Mari, thank you for joining us.
Hello, greetings Paige, greetings Dave, thanks for having me.
Sure thing. We also have Eric Goldshine with us. Eric
He'll be hopping on later.
He will. He'll be hopping on shortly. He's an editor at Fundera, and we thank Eric for taking the time to join us here today as well.
So, Mari, we're so excited. I loved reading all of your trend predictions, really centered around, I mean, I do social media here at Keap, so I loved reading what's coming up in Facebook and coming up in the world of social media. So, starting us off, do you think 2020 will be an easier year for Facebook versus 2019? Because 2019 was like the awkward teenage years for Facebook.
I would say that 2016 through 2019 was like awkward, 3 years of awkwardness.
I think that's fair.
But nonetheless, we're talking about small business marketing in particular, and I'm very, very heartened by the different products and iterations that Facebook is making, in particular with Zuckerberg's pivot to privacy, if you will. It was like March of last year now, and I know we'll talk about that in a moment possibly.
Right.
But I'm optimistic. I think it'll be a very good year for Facebook and for Facebook marketers.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So 2016, 2019, kind of awkward years. 2020, we're looking forward to it. And reading some of your trends, you put that, back in 2013, you declared it the year of the video, and then you put a note saying it's just kind of gone on from there. And so what are different ways that small businesses can adopt their video strategy to serve all of the different areas in Facebook and Instagram when we're talking about social media marketing?
Yeah, so it's interesting, almost like, I mean, we've never ever had a time as we have now, obviously, but it's like depending on what your specific niche is, we have a variety of demographics, right? You got the Gen Z all the way up to the boomers and more. And the younger demographic, that Gen Z, 21 and under, 20 and under, and then you got your millennials, but those super youngers are really favoring that short form micro video. So made popular by Snapchat, going crazy on TikTok. The Vine founders just launched, or one of the founders launched Byte, B-Y-T-E, recently. And, that's one of the things that really put Instagram like firmly, on this growth trajectory was blatantly copying the stories feature from Snapchat. And so now I was just reading earlier that, Facebook's really coming out with new ways for us to consume more content, more stories content on Facebook, because there are more users, almost double the users on Facebook than there are on Instagram. And so if Facebook and Instagram together can get users to consume more micro video, that is the stories format, and the fact that it's ephemeral, it is absolute prime real estate for ad placement. And then what that means for advertisers, is that there's just so much more. I think I put the stats in there. Yeah, so Sheryl Sandberg just said the other week that there's 7 million advertisers across the Facebook family of apps, and 3 million of which are advertising across the stories. Wow. And so I think savvy marketers, you want to create native story video. That means it's in the 9:16 format. Ideally, it looks like when they're tapping and swiping, it looks like it's just somebody just recorded a video. That's a good one for sure.
Yeah, I also think it's going to be interesting to see the delicate balance that Facebook is going to have to find with in putting sponsored content in between these stories, because I know on Snapchat, just from my personal experience, it's sponsor heavy. You can't go 2 or 3, clips of video without getting served an ad. So, I mean, I really hope that Facebook doesn't fall into that as we're going through that.
It already is, actually, Paige. It already is.
Yeah.
It depends, depending on how many people you follow and who you follow. But I found, like, if it's not in between individual stories, but certainly in between accounts. When I hit that swipe, it's like every 2 to 3 swipes or between accounts, I will see sponsored content.
Yeah.
Mari, you mentioned stories. I was hoping you could, dive a little deeper. What are some other trends that are coming in stories that small business owners will find easy to adopt?
So one of my favorite stats is about the number of times that people love to touch their phones. And it's extraordinary. It's like 2,600 times a day.
Wow.
But the super duper power users, it's like over 5,000 times a day. I'm just ludicrous, isn't it? I mean, I suppose that must be counting every keystroke unless you're doing like the swipes or the dictations. So my point in bringing that up is that as marketers, when you can include these elements that encourage people to touch their phone, the sliders, the polls, the questions, the group chat. You can put polls into an ad, which is super awesome. I mean, that's like people just can't help but touch and engage. Now they're engaging with your ads, which really is pretty awesome. So I predict, Facebook's going to really be doubling down on the stories product across both Instagram and Facebook. I've seen significant improvement on the Facebook stories product, using it natively inside the Facebook mobile app. Just simple things like you're searching for a GIF and then you go back to get another GIF and it saved your place where you left off, whereas before it didn't do that. So you know what I mean? Just little things like that. But I mean, Dave, it's interesting because there's been a lot of talk for about 18 months now about the newsfeed going away. And I think that Facebook and Instagram both tried a test of this merged horizontal tap and swipe feed. So it's like the newsfeed and stories combined. A lot of pushback about that didn't really go over so well. But I'm kind of thinking that at some point, Facebook might get us to train us over time to consume content with that tap and swipe, which is so much more different than just like instead of mindlessly thumb scrolling, now you're mindlessly tap and swipe. But the beautiful thing, to make a clear distinction from a user and a marketing standpoint, I wrote about this in the contribution, the trends report for Keap, is that the user is in control when you're consuming stories. Like if somebody's published, 20 stories in a row and I want to just see the first 3 and then swipe to the next account, it's super duper easy to do. Whereas on the newsfeed, it's just so much more random. It feels more random, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And my favorite feature on the stories is, at least for small businesses, is the questions option, because I'm like, you could do market research right there in your Instagram story by just using the little question button and asking your audience what they want. I mean, I think it's so powerful for small businesses to use. So thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any last thoughts for our small business listeners as they go into 2020?
I do. I want to really underscore kind of this blend of the stories and the video. I mean, we only talked about micro video as it pertains to story, but really video, like what we're doing here today. Facebook Live gets the best reach, the best engagement, 6 times engagement than recorded video. Kind of want to do a mix of both. But I also want to just make sure we emphasize Messenger and messaging chat, chat marketing automation through Messenger, which is something that is exactly what Zuckerberg means when he's talking about the pivot to privacy. Now that businesses have this opportunity to talk to their customers, their audience, one-on-one through Messenger. Got to comply with the rules. There's very strong rules. We don't want to turn Messenger into spam haven, but it's a powerful mechanism to reach your audience.
Mari, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and I thank you for contributing to this year's marketing trends report. Very much so. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Paige.
Thanks,
we'll see
Mari.
you again soon.
Bye. If you want to hear more from Mari in her trends report and what she had, go ahead and check out that link. It's in our caption and in the comments to read her full analysis of what's coming in 2020.
Okay, well, next up, we'd like to reintroduce Eric Goldshine from Fundera. Eric is an editor there. He's also a contributor, a blog contributor to us here at Keap.com. Eric, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for all the great blogs that you send our way. I really appreciate that. I encourage
my pleasure.
Encourage readers to visit our site and read all of your content. It's great stuff.
It is.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me here today.
Sure.
Great. Eric, I loved reading your contribution to the 2020 Trends Report. Man, that's a mouthful. And I really, Mari mentioned it previously. You highlighted it as a key piece of what's coming in 2020, and that's data privacy, right? She just talked about you don't want to be spamming. Yeah. Facebook's moving towards data privacy. How have you seen it play out in the first 2 months? We're almost through the end of February. How have you seen that shift in the market already happen?
Well, guys, I think the first thing I would say is usually when we talk about data privacy right now, we're usually talking about the CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, and how that's affecting small businesses. I think for the most part, a lot of small businesses aren't going to need to worry about becoming compliant this year. You need to make a certain amount of money and reach a few other benchmarks that small businesses aren't going to touch at this point. I've actually seen some surveys, which is pretty funny, that show a lot of business owners still don't understand what the CCPA is or does, which tells me it's not really a top of mind thing for a lot of people.
Right.
But I think the CCPA and the European version that came before it is going to give people a reason to have this conversation about data privacy. It's come up at meetings here at Fundera, for example, and I think that's really important for small and medium-sized businesses to begin broaching the subject of, how are we acquiring customer data? How are we using it? Eventually, I think laws may become more stringent for all types of businesses, all sizes of businesses in the U.S. So moving the direction now of, let's say, hiring a data processing consultant to make sure that we know how to identify and classify sensitive data, or, understanding how data is collected and stored by our business. What tools are we using? How are those tools handling data responsibly? Am I using a service that's going to be pulling data on my customers without their consent?
Right.
If you work with third-party agencies, now's the time to have that conversation with them and to make sure that they're using responsible practices to obtain data. Even examining your relationship with Facebook ads, I think Mari can probably speak a little bit more to that than I could, but being thoughtful in the data that you're using to target people. There can be blowback if users perceive that they're being targeted like a creepy way. And the last thing you want is to stare down a fine or a lawsuit or even an uncomfortable conversation with customers when you could have just had a conversation with your team today to avoid that.
Yeah, and I think the idea of data privacy can seem really intimidating to a lot of small business owners because, maybe some small business owners don't know, what data they're even storing, right? Like credit card information, they might not associate that with data. So we have a question that just came in from Dane from LinkedIn, and he said, GDPR and CCPA, what does that mean for data privacy?
Well, so they're both laws around the idea of what you can do with a consumer's data, what people can do with data that they receive from a marketing standpoint. GDPR is the European version of that law, of that concept. The CCPA is the California version, which a lot of businesses that have customers in California are going to have to deal with. And I think if you, to your point, Paige, if you have questions about this is a really good time to bring in a data processing consultant, talk to your legal counsel, talk to whoever it is that can give you a better sense of what exactly do I do on a daily basis that can run afoul of these laws. How might I run afoul of these laws in the future if they come to New York, New Jersey, wherever your business is, Arizona, right. And kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I've been seeing a bunch of websites asking me to re-accept all of their cache and cookies.
Yep.
That's an example. Every new website I've got, no, not even new websites I visit regularly. As soon as January 2020 hit, I had to re-accept all those cookies. So
yeah, there you go.
All that
Perfect.
privacy.
Eric, just to follow up on this, what can businesses do to make sure that they're adapting to this trend?
I think it involves, if it depends on the size of your business, right? Like we said, for a lot of small business owners, the CCPA is not going to bite you in the butt today, this year, probably. It is about making sure that the tools you use, if you use third-party marketing software, if you use, other tools to reach out to small business owners, if you're using Facebook, a lot of these companies are going to do that legwork for you. Facebook
building. And I wanted to ask you, where do you see community building happening this year?
The easiest and clearest way to answer that question is, communities are going to be all across all major social media platforms. Right. Facebook's a great example. We're on Facebook Live right now, which I think is amazing. Shout out to you guys. Great idea. We've made an effort on our end, a concerted effort to build a community with our Fundera Town Hall group, which is where small business owners and entrepreneurs can come together to ask questions, give and get advice. You even see that Facebook itself is really making an effort to get people to join and participate in groups, right. Capital G groups of all kinds through their marketing and advertising, efforts. But Twitter, LinkedIn, which we'll get into a little bit later, communities through Slack. That's other good examples of places where you're going to find community this year.
Right. And even with, your brick and mortar small businesses that are out there, doing local meetups or being involved in your local community that way. That's another way you can build community, investing in a mastermind. We just had a small business owner in here who's starting her own mastermind for small business owners. So, it doesn't have to be limited to social media, although that might be a good step for small business owners because it might be the most attainable and easily accessible way that they can start doing that.
Yes, totally agree. Yeah, don't mean to cut you off, but yes.
Oh, and I was just going to say, it's all about building trust with our customers and the leads that we're developing as small business owners, because with the privacy concerns, why are there concerns? Because they want to be able to trust you as a small business owner. Why do you want to build that community? Because they want to be able to trust you, and they want to stand behind a company that is like making a difference in their community and in their space. So I think those two things that you mentioned are very tightly wound together. I don't think there's one without the other.
Yeah, totally agree.
So you also talked about LinkedIn Spaces, and I gotta say, LinkedIn is considered to be antiquated by some people. Not all. I love LinkedIn, but some people, it had its moment, and then it kind of disappeared for a while. And I actually think it's having a little bit rebirth of its own. So why do you think that thought leadership on LinkedIn is important for a small business owner?
Well, yeah, I mean, is LinkedIn antiquated? I mean, it's not TikTok, I know that, but in all seriousness, I think, I agree with you. I think LinkedIn is great. It definitely it's been a bit of an up and down,
right,
for them. I think now we're on the up. I go on there all the time. I get inspiration from fellow marketers, content creators, business leaders, thought leaders all the time. I network with people. I see what people are working on. It's more useful to me from like a thought leadership perspective than other social media apps like Facebook or Instagram. I think thought leadership is important for everyone. I think your personal brand is really intimately tied up with the brand of your business. Really great companies often have, a personal brand associated with them. Like if you use Microsoft as an example, I think it's hard to separate the brand of Microsoft from the brand of Bill Gates. Right. Small business owners, whether they own a flower shop or a restaurant or an e-commerce store, they should have a personal brand that reflects what it's like to work in that field. Right. They should be experts, but they should also be real people who customers can feel good about buying from. If you're thought leadership is kind of a scary term, I think, for some people, where it's like, I don't know what it means to be a thought leader. That sounds like something that is for like people who are on TEDx or, like if they're lecturers on the circuit. But, it's if you have something real to say and something passionate to say, it's all about having the courage to share those thoughts about, your industry, about what it's like to be a small business owner. And so just taking that first step of knowing that you can share your thoughts and be a part of a conversation, I think is a huge part of becoming a thought leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're actually on LinkedIn Live right now.
No way.
Yeah, as well as Facebook and Periscope on Twitter. So LinkedIn is really developing in that sense. And I think that because it hasn't been so saturated, it has some limitless growth for and acquisition abilities. And Cindy from LinkedIn right now is saying that LinkedIn is great for B2B, which I'm sure you absolutely agree with, and we do too over here.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Eric, I have a general question for you. If you could, please, can you just sort of narrow down one very important tip that you would have for a small business owner with regards to marketing and how they could get started with that tip?
Do you mean like specific to the LinkedIn conversation, or just generally?
Generally. The floor is yours.
Thank you. There are so many different ways to think about that question. I think it really depends on, what kind of business you're in, what's your industry, if you're B2B, B2C, what your goals are for this year. I am a content marketer. I write a lot of content. I write a lot of articles. I write ebooks. I write, surveys. And so from my perspective, a really good first step is kind of intertwined with what we talked about personal branding and going out there and telling the story of your business and telling the story of your business ownership, whether that means going on social media to talk about what it's like on a daily basis to run your business, whether that's blogging and sharing that story on a daily basis and finding different ways to share that story around on different platforms. I think marketing is about storytelling, and you can tell that story. If you can tell that story in some way, shape, or form, you're really off to a good start. So don't be afraid to talk about what's important to you, what's important to your business, And you'll find ways to share it, whether it's on social media, whether it's on your blog, whether it's on a forum like this. So, get going that way.
That's good stuff. Thank you.
That's a great tip. I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
the perfect way to cap this off. Thank you, Eric, for joining us today. If you want to read more of Eric's insights about data privacy, community building, and LinkedIn, go ahead and click out to the trends report in full in our caption, in our comments. And we're getting a note right now. Oh, and there's several other experts on the trends report too. So not just Eric and Mari, although their insights are really great.
Sure.
There's also more people who Dave was able to pull in to
Yes.
get to give their insights on.
Yes, and that includes Clayt Mass, the CEO of
Right.
Keap. Clayt was very forthcoming with his advice, both in written and video form. So if you'd like to check out what Clayt and the other influencers had to say, again, please visit the report at keap.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us. And thank you to our live audience.
My pleasure.
We'll see
Thanks.
you guys next time.